Sometimes when you figure out why you've been doing something, you don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah, and sometimes you keep on doing it anyway.
The social values that fuel a high-energy society are all too apparent today. The values that could make a low-energy society work are deeply rooted in many cultures, but they may need to be rescued from the societal attic and dusted off. Whatever happened to thrift, to neighborliness, craftsmanship, the notion that esteem is merited more by conspicuous simplicity than by conspicuous consumption? Recycling values like that could help us to achieve growth in things that really count rather than in things that are merely countable.
H.T. Odum, considered to be one of the fathers of modern ecology, has made some interesting remarks about the relationship between energy and human cultures. The survival of an ecosystem depends on maintaining an efficient energy flow. If this is also true of human cultures, then surviving cultures tend to develop patterns that maximize their energy flows. These patterns are reflected in the beliefs and values of the culture and lead to decisions that are a help in survival. We call these their ethical patterns, religious mores, and folkways. Now, when conditions change, what is required of the culture will change. During periods of growth, one type of ethics is required. During steady state, another. When it is possible to grow, there may be an emphasis on military expansion, and a culture develops with this basis. When energies are lower, there may be a de-emphasis on military expansion, each in turn depending on energy availability. We have at present a culture which is based on unlimited supplies of fossil fuel and with a recent history of growth. Growth is regarded as necessary and right. But we retain within our system subcultures whose life support mechanisms are based essentially on solar energy. It's an interesting thing that within our larger systems, we retain the variability that may be necessary to generate patterns for the future.
Life is, after all, a matter of doing one thing instead of another. If we can accept that, then deciding which things we do is very important, and we should pay some attention to the process of making those decisions. Not paying attention to the process is what gets us into the most trouble. Paying attention means thinking and ideas. People who don't think and who don't have ideas are in for a bad time of it, because they will be manipulated all of the time instead of part of the time.
Concert tour shows profits over human life, requesting to redesign the car, pack 3 suitcases full of drugs.
ABC News, the State Department. Yeah, you better get...
See? Wow!
How much freedom anybody has is always changing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if we have more energy, we get to have more freedom.
On the other hand, maybe we need more freedom in order to use more energy. So we can have more freedom, so we can use more energy. So
You know the donkey cart and carrot system.
But sometimes less freedom can get us to use more energy, too.
How?
Well, energy tends to flow as effectively as it can in any system, plants, people, or animals. And the process that gets the most work out of the energy is going to be the most successful. So sometimes we use new values, in this case, less freedom, to get more work out of the energy.
Kind of like we use new machines.
Yeah, in wartime, our ethics restrict freedom. We discipline ourselves to focus more work on winning the war. Even an artist has to be disciplined to produce enough to make a living. So more work, less freedom, and therefore more energy gets used.
If we get too much stuff, we have to spend a lot of time and energy taking care of it. Our heads have to take care of it, too. And after a while, we have less and less freedom, because we have to protect all our stuff.
So energy does control our values, at that point anyway, because planning means seeing into the future. And to go faster, you've got to see further.
That's simple enough. The more power and speed we have, the more control we need.
Highly centralized energy sources demand highly predictable people. Safety and security require that we put a check on our civil liberties and our freedoms. Governments that are trying to make up our minds for us about technologies with perceived hazards that are exotic, disputed, unknown, maybe unknowable, are very tempted to substitute we the experts for we the people, elitist technocracy for democratic process. Over-centralized, over-specialized energy technologies can be very expensive, not only in money, but in human freedoms.
At some point in the growth of an industrial society, the cost of maintaining social order may increase faster than the other areas of the economy. The business and bureaucracy of social control is already a major industry in the U.S. If we are unable to reduce our energy consumption, the major work of this society will be devoted to maintaining social order. In what ways do you pay for your high-energy habit? Today, very few people are directly involved in the activities that provide food, shelter, and clothing, and even these have become mechanical jobs. As our work becomes meaningless and repetitive, we seek diversions from boredom and booze, drugs, and TV. We understand less and less about ourselves, and we become more and more out of touch with the natural low-energy reality of our bodies. We don't understand, we can't understand the high-energy reality we live in the midst of. If we define ourselves through our work, and if our work is meaningless and repetitive, then we will discover that we too are meaningless and repetitive.
It is important that everyone produce something rather than a few produce a great deal. What is important is that people are able to work. Pope Pius XI said, bodily labor, which even after original sin was decreed by providence for the good of man's body and soul, is in many instances changed into an instrument of perversion, and from the factory dead matter goes forth improved, whereas men there are corrupted and degraded. And Mahatma Gandhi said, every machine that helps every individual has a place. But there should be no place for machines that concentrate power in a few hands and turn the masses into mere machine minders, if indeed they do not make them unemployed.
Underlying our energy choices is a difference of perception about mankind and his works. Some people who are impressed and fascinated by the glittering achievements of technology say that if we will only have faith in human ingenuity, theirs, we will witness the second coming of Prometheus, bringing us undreamed of freedom and plenty. Some other people say that we ought to plan on something more modest, lest we find instead some undreamed of tyrannies and perils. And that even if we had an unlimited energy source, we wouldn't have the discipline to use it wisely. Such people are really saying that energy is not enough to solve the ancient problems of the human spirit. In our energy choices today, we have a chance, maybe our last, to start to foster a greater humility, one that springs from an appreciation of the essential frailty of the human design.
Long ago, people saw the world as a magical place. They knew that everything was alive, like it had a spirit. The rivers, trees, the rain and the wind, even the leaves on the ground. Everything must have seemed very alive and aware of us.